So we started out as fans of yours because of Earthworm Jim. We all launched the cow in 1994, and we're incredibly disappointed when we finish the game and see where it finally landed. For those of you who haven't played it, you need to do it, and those who haven't played any of the ports, go find them. It's an incredible game, great soundtrack, and incredibly funny to play. But your career has been filled with awards since Earthworm Jim. Neverhood was an incredible video game that you made that won a lot of awards. It was a new animation style using stop motion animation in a video game. It was great. And you got to work with one of the guys that I think is probably the kings of Christian music, with Terry Taylor from Daniel Amos. So talk to me about what that experience was like, and more than that, just the idea of having you, who is a Christian in a creative field that does not feel like you have to force religion into everything, and Terry, who is probably part of one of the greatest Christian bands of all time, that just the Jesus flowed out of their music instead of Jesus being forced into their music. What was that collaboration like?
I like that. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with a Christian, is when your heart is filled with Jesus, he will come out. You can't, for a Christian to be completely unaffected after having met Jesus, you're probably not a Christian. So he will change you in some way, and he will start coming out, not always as explicit on some people as others, but he's a takeover of the root system. And so you start producing different branches and different fruits. So Terry, and that includes the artist, right? So Terry was always doing music, and I was always doing art. And then you become a Christian, and that just starts pouring out of you. It's not that I don't have to ever concentrate and like white knuckle, get Jesus out, and, it just comes out. And I met Terry, I think I saw his band, the Swirling Eddies, play at the Troubadour, probably right around 1992. That was in Hollywood. And I was so intimidated by him because I listened to Daniel Amos, his band, all through the 80s. It really helped secure my salvation, and really was kind of my muse as an artist. It is for those guys who aren't familiar with Daniel Amos, get the albums like Horrendous Disc, Alarma, Vox Humana, Fearful Symmetry, and Darn Floor Big Bite. Those 5 albums they're like Beatles mixed with some Steely Dan, and Terry is just an artist. His lyrics are amazing, and he's very introspective, very much a critic of the church. If the church ever sells out, is kind of, which I think is where the band's name came from, Daniel and Amos being the 2 prophetic books of the Bible, that they're kind of warnings to what's coming. And that set pretty deep in my heart as a Christian and someone who is at war with culture. Terry was always there for me before I ever even knew him. So I met him. I went to this concert. I watched the Swirling Eddies play, and I was so intimidated, but I saw him up in the balcony looking over the top after the show. And I told my friend, I go, "Look, it's Terry Taylor." He goes, "Go meet him." I go, "No, I couldn't." Because I have this awe for him. He said, "Come on, I'll go with you." And he walked me up there, and I met him. And he was very cool. Was very minimal in rock god mode, very minimalist,
Right.
Well, then one of the best man at my wedding, Joe Potter, was one of the main designers at Frontline Records. So he did a lot of their album covers for all those artists, tons of them, right? And I was doing a lot of illustration back then. And I said, "You got to get me on a Daniel Amos album somehow." And he got me to do some of the liner note inks for Bible Land, which I think came out sometime in the early 90s.
Okay.
I did right around 93, because I know I was working on Earthworm Jim at the time. And I had put Terry's name in the bucket for doing the music on Earthworm Jim, but we already had Tommy Tallarico. He was a good friend of all of ours. He was the main man. So when I left to start my own company and we started the Neverhood, First guy I thought of, I go, and Terry Taylor's doing the music. And he'd never done video game music. He didn't understand video game music at all. But he just came and started hanging out at the company because we were in Orange County and he was in Orange County at the time. And man, Terry and I just fell in love with each other, just hit it off. He's so thoughtful and just a deep pool of a man. Big heart, just super, way more gentle than I am, you know. And he loves artists, and he just loved the Neverhood. And man, from the first song he brought in on a cassette, the whole team, you know, many of the team were non-Christians or didn't know about Terry at all. From the first song he brought in on tape, they went, wow, that's it. And if you listen to the Neverhood soundtrack, Terry hadn't written much like that, you know, before. The background vocals do have kind of his weird X minor seventh, you know, chord, the kind of green sounding chord. But other than that, he was really going back to kind of old folky blues, kind of front porch, you know, jibber jabber kind of stuff. Very homey and a perfect marriage for clay animation. And even our palettes were kind of muddy with lots of ochres in them and stuff. So the music, you know, he'd bring in the brush, you know, on the drums and kind of slap the drums, which I think Ed McTaggart played the drums, who also played drums on Daniel Amos. And just nailed the music. Now his music ended up getting like album of the year or video game music of the year by this, you know, it was by far the most favorite part of the game. As charming as the rest of the game was, Terry was the star. And then he did Skull Monkeys, which again just got a little weirder even. And his bonus room song ended up influencing the musician on Portal to write the Eat Cake.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, he credits Terry Taylor for giving him that idea because it was a self-referential song about the game.
Right.
So it's just look up, if you guys want to look up Terry's song, look up Terry S. Taylor, Skull Monkeys, the bonus room song.
The bonus room. We'll have to check
that out. The bonus
out.
room song, you will cry laughing when you hear. It is the creepiest, weirdest, funniest song I've probably ever heard in my life. And we captured lightning in a bottle.
That's awesome.
Terry and I have been friends ever since. Just a good guy. Call each other every once in a while. He's a great bro. He's on Patreon, by the way, for those of you who want to support a great Christian artist who just pounds out music, explains all of his old Daniel Amos song, remixes them and re-releases them and writes new stuff. He's a prolific writer. Give him $5 on Patreon and he will put stars in your head. I'm TenNapel. I'm the creator of Earthworm Jim. And my pronouns are shut up and eat meat. And I just got to say, you guys should never listen to the Reverend and